Hey everybody, Evan Preco here. Welcome to the SG1 Sports Big Ten Football channel. In this video, I'm going to recap the Minnesota versus South Dakota State game that took place last night in Minneapolis. Now, to start off the recap, I want to say that Minnesota was favored by 14 points before the game. And for the game, Tanner Morgan got the nod as the starting quarterback. He started basically the second half of the year last year after Zach Annexstad got hurt, and now he got the starting nod to start the season in 2019. Now, in the game, Tanner Morgan went 13 of 18 for 176 yards, one touchdown, and one interception. Rodney Smith was their leading rusher. He had 21 carries for 92 yards, averaging 4.5 yards per carry. Rashad Bateman was their leading receiver, which shocks me a little bit because I really thought that it was going to be Tyler Johnson, who had almost 1,200 receiving yards last year, which was a school record. But nope, it was Rashad Bateman last night. He had 5 receptions for 132 yards and 1 touchdown. As a team, Minnesota ran for 132 total yards, and they had a 308 total yards of offense. For South Dakota State, Jabari Gibbs got the starting job at quarterback. He's very young, very inexperienced, so we'll see how his career there goes. But last night he was 13 for 26 for 193 yards, 1 touchdown, and 1 interception. Pierre Strong Jr. Had 12 carries for 53 yards, also averaging 4.5 yards per carry. He was their leading rusher. Cade Johnson was their leading receiver. He had 6 receptions for 90 yards. As a team, they ran for 174 yards, and they had 367 total yards of offense. So they beat Minnesota in total rushing yards and total yards of offense. Now for the game recap, the game started off pretty slow. Both teams were forced to punt on their opening drives, and both teams went scoreless through the entire first quarter. The first points of the game weren't put up until Minnesota's third possession, when they had a 1-yard touchdown run by their Wildcat quarterback Seth Green with about 10 minutes to go in the first half. South Dakota State then answered on their fourth possession on a 1-yard touchdown run by Jabari Gibbs, so 2 quarterbacks rushing for touchdowns so far, to tie the game with 3.5 minutes to go in the first half. Tanner Morgan then threw a 42-yard touchdown pass to Rashad Bateman, which was a sick one-handed catch. I could not believe he did it when I was watching it live. I thought that was amazing. And they took the lead 13-7 with 49 seconds left before halftime. Michael Lance ended up missing the extra point, so they went into halftime leading 13-7 instead of 14-7. To start off the second half, Minnesota's Chris Williamson intercepted Jabari Gibbs and returned it 43 yards for a touchdown a minute into the second half to make the score 20-7. South Dakota State then got back into the game on a 1-yard touchdown run by Mikey Daniel to pull closer and make the score 20-14 with about 9 minutes to go in the third. South Dakota State then continued their momentum on their next drive with a 13-yard touchdown pass from Gibbs to Zach Hines, and that was actually Zach Hines' first reception at South Dakota State in his career, and they took the lead 21-20 with 3.5 minutes left in the third. In the fourth quarter, a Gibbs fumble with 8 minutes to go gave Minnesota great field position. I think it gave them the ball at South Dakota State's 30-yard line, I believe, and they took advantage of the turnover with a 1-yard touchdown run by Muhammad Ibrahim and a 2-point conversion catch by Tanner Morgan, which resembled the Philly Special in the Super Bowl, which also took place in Minneapolis. And the Gophers retook the lead 28-21 with about 5.5 to go in the game. Minnesota never gave up that lead from that point on, and they ended up winning the game 28-21. Now, my initial thoughts. I'll start with Minnesota. They could have played a lot better in my opinion. They won the game by 7 points. They were favored by 14, so they did not beat the spread. The way they ended the season last year, they demolished Wisconsin in Camp Randall, their first win against Wisconsin in about 13 or 14 years. And then they demolished Georgia Tech in the bowl game that they played. They played very well in that game. So there was a lot of momentum to end the season and a lot of hype in the offseason for this program. And that's not really, if I'm the Gophers, that's not really what you want to do to start the season, is a very close win against an FCS opponent. And you're just not playing that well overall. Now, at the end of the day, a win is a win. They should feel good about the win. And I understand it's the first game of the year. You're bound to make a lot of mistakes because of rust, because of inexperience. and just because of nerves. But they'll get things figured out later in the season. I believe that they will. They'll have a good year. They'll go 8-4, 7-5, win a couple big games, and go to a decent bowl game. And I think they'll be all right. Next week they play at Fresno State. So we'll see if it was just rust this week or if they're just overall not playing well, because that'll be a good test for them too. For South Dakota State, I don't know how you feel coming out of this game. There are pros and cons to this game. The main con, you lost. You lost a game that you probably should have won. Because here's the thing, I think overall they played better than Minnesota. It's just Minnesota ended up getting a bit lucky. Like the interception, the pick six, that play was a disaster because it was a bad snap, and Gibbs basically just kind of threw it wherever, hoping someone would catch it, and it just got picked off and taken to the house. The fumble in the fourth quarter wasn't even a forced fumble. That was a missed handoff exchange between Gibbs and his running back, and a Minnesota defender happened to fall on the ball when it was on the ground. And that gave them all the momentum they needed to win the game. For the majority of the third quarter, I think the majority of the third quarter and the beginning of the fourth, South Dakota State had pretty much all the momentum in the game. Yes, they had that pick six, but then they scored back-to-back touchdowns and kept stopping Minnesota on defense. And they were playing very well. And so it looked like for a little bit there that they would pull off the upset. But then, of course, there was a lot of football left. So Minnesota came back and won the game. But if you're South Dakota State, do you feel negative because you let this one get away? You let this opportunity slip? Or are you positive about the outcome because you played very well on the road against a Power 5 Big Ten team to start your season? I think there's a little bit of both here. I think they played very well, and obviously South Dakota State is a very good football team. They were ranked number 3 in the FCS polls, and I think that they're going to have a very, very, very good season. Next week they play Long Island University, and I think they're going to win that game easily. So we'll see how good they are. I think they're going to be a very good football team this year. I also think Minnesota will be pretty good. But the one thing about Minnesota that worries me a little bit is their offensive line. Minnesota's offensive line is bigger than South Dakota State's defensive line. That's a given. And the thing was that South Dakota State's defensive linemen kept getting into the backfield. They kept filling the holes. Minnesota could not run the ball up the middle very well. They couldn't. They had to keep going to the outside and to throw the ball, to move the ball. They could not run the ball up the middle. They kept getting 1-2 yard gains for most of the time, and they ended up getting a few lost yards. So we'll see how they are able to fix that. Maybe, you never know. They'll improve throughout the season, I believe. So I think they're going to be just fine. A win is a win, so they should feel good. We'll see how they do next week. Let me know what you guys think in the comments section. What do you think about Minnesota's performance? What do you think about South Dakota State's performance? How do you think each team should assess this game and how they should move forward from it? So yeah, leave a comment in the comments section. Thank you all very much for watching this video. Watch all of our other videos on this channel and check out our main SG1 Sports channel. And I hope you all have a great day.